Imagine making your NFL debut under the glare of stadium lights, the noise, the cameras, the whole country watching, and then finding out hours later that someone walked into your house while you were on the field and left with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of your life. That's what happened to Shedeur Sanders on Sunday. A rookie's baptism by fire on the turf and a robbery at home that stole more than just possessions. Reuters. On the field, the afternoon was its own kind of harsh lesson. Sanders came in after Dillon Gabriel exited with a concussion and finished 4 of 16 for 47 yards, 1 interception, 2 sacks, and a passer rating that screamed rough debut. Those numbers are blunt. They don't capture the near misses. The tipped interception that almost became a turnover for the other side, the broken up 30-yard shot to Gage Larvadain that could have rewritten the narrative, but they do tell you the basic truth. He was asked to perform in a moment he hadn't been built for. ESPN.com. While he was trying to learn NFL speed in real time, deputies say video shows 3 masked, gloved suspects entering Sanders' suburban Ohio home at about 6:46 p.m. and leaving roughly 12 minutes later. Investigators estimate about $200,000 in property was taken. No arrests have been announced, and the case remains active as law enforcement sifts through footage and leads. That kind of loss, not just money, but items that often hold memory and routine, is the kind of blow that arrives with shock and then hangs around in quieter ways. BeaconJournal.com. These two threads, rookie struggle and personal violation, collide in ways that are easy to dramatize and hard to recover from. Publicly, coaches and teammates will talk about the tape and the next game. Privately, a player has to process the idea that his home, the one place he thought safe between practices and film sessions, was breached while he was doing his job. That psychological load is real. It eats at focus, disrupts sleep, and turns what should be a singular professional challenge into a messy pair of crises. Can you learn fast enough to keep your job, and can you feel secure enough to sleep at night? Reuters. Let's be clear about the football side. Sanders wasn't the quarterback Cleveland had primed to step in on short notice. The team's plan had Dillon Gabriel building chemistry as the starter, with veterans taking backup reps. Sanders was farther down the ladder. When injuries force a roster's hand, the results can look inevitable. A rookie struggling because he hasn't had first-team practice reps isn't the same as a rookie failing after being given a full week of preparation. The question for the Browns now is simple and urgent. Does Gabriel clear concussion protocol in time, or does Sanders get a full week of first-team work and the chance to show what he looks like when the game plan is actually designed for him? ESPN.com, there's a social and organizational angle here too. High-profile athletes have been targeted more and more, a pattern the league and law enforcement have been sounding alarms about for months, and teams are scrambling to protect players who are performing publicly while their homes sit empty. The league's memos, team security protocols, and personal precautions can all help, but the cost, coordination, and reality on the ground are messy. For a rookie with a famous last name and a sudden spotlight, that media circus only intensifies the pressure. Headlines will pair the burglary and the on-field struggles into a neat narrative of disaster. Reality is always more complicated. Bleacher Report. There's also a human moment that matters and rarely makes a highlight reel: how teammates respond. After the game, leaders in the locker room had to do more than analyze play calls. They had to steady a young man who just lost more than yards and had taken his first real NFL beating in every sense. That kind of emotional scaffolding, veterans refusing to let a rookie be crushed by a week's headlines, can determine whether a young player internalizes a mistake and shrinks, or studies the film, learns, and grows. The tape will give coaches a checklist. The locker room will decide whether the kid has the space to work on it. Bleacher Report for the Browns' short-term fortunes, the math is practical. If Gabriel clears protocol, the immediate drama quiets, and Sanders returns to developmental mode. If Gabriel's recovery lags and Sanders gets a full preparation week, we'll get a far more useful sample of what he can do with an offense tailored to him. And the team will need to schematize protection, quick reads, and plays that hide rookie weaknesses while highlighting his strengths. Coaching decisions this week will tell you whether Cleveland believes in Sanders' ceiling or simply regards him as an emergency fill-in. ESPN.com. But beyond the X's and O's sits a longer question. How do you measure a player's future when his first pro afternoon includes both a difficult on-field debut and a home invasion? The honest answer is, you don't. Not yet. The NFL is built for fast opinions and slow truths. One forced half doesn't make or break a career. A pattern of repeated opportunity and growth, or the lack of it, does. What matters will be the next week's reports, medical updates, practice notes, security developments, and eventually performance under a full week of preparation if he gets it. BeaconJournal.com. Here's the image you'll carry with you. A young man standing under bright lights, trying to learn, while the one place that should be safe for him gets violated in the dark. It's a brutal juxtaposition. Public trial and private theft, and how the Browns, the league, and Sanders himself respond in the next 72 hours will tell you whether this becomes a defining setback or a fierce character-building chapter. Either way, the football lesson is obvious and merciless. The game will keep testing you, and sometimes life tests you at the same time. How you answer both will say a lot about what comes next. Aaron Rodgers didn't finish the game, and suddenly, a season that felt fragile is flirting with real risk. Head coach Mike Tomlin confirmed what everyone feared after the Steelers' win over the Bengals. Rodgers left with a wrist injury and will undergo further evaluation. That line, will be evaluated, is the kind of line coaches use when they don't want to say the worst out loud, and it's worth taking seriously. This matters for a lot more than one Sunday night stat line. First, the immediate football facts. Rodgers exited with his left wrist bothering him after a sack, and initial imaging at the stadium hinted at something more than a bruise. Mason Rudolph filled in and was steady. 12 of 16 for 127 yards and a touchdown in relief. But this is not about one competent backup performance. It's about continuity, durability, and the long shadow of risk that comes with signing a 41-year-old quarterback to a one-year deal. Even if the wrist turns out to be a short-term issue, losing Rodgers for any extended stretch forces the Steelers to pivot their identity overnight. Second, the tactical implications. Pittsburgh's offense has leaned on quick completions and short area throws for much of the season because the run game has been inconsistent and protection isn't elite. Rodgers' strongest asset this year hasn't been scrambling. He's had to adjust to a quarterback-friendly plan that hides pressure and gets the ball out fast. A wrist injury disrupts that. Even on his non-throwing hand, pain alters mechanics, grip, and confidence. If Rodgers can't return quickly or tampers with his release, the offense that's already had trouble sustaining long drives stalls even